Welcome back to the channel where we break down the wild world of global politics in a way that actually makes sense, like a drama-filled theater production unfolding right before our eyes. So, imagine the high-stakes drama of a theater troupe, complete with all the rivalries, alliances, and plot twists you could ask for. You've got the lead actor, the undeniable star who's used to commanding the spotlight and setting the tone for the entire show. But then there's the ambitious understudy, who's been patiently waiting in the wings for far too long, itching to step up and steal the scene with their own flair. Add in the swing performer, that versatile player who can jump into multiple roles depending on the night's needs, always adapting and figuring out where they fit best to keep the performance running smoothly. And don't forget the veteran actor, once the unquestioned headliner, but now fighting to stay relevant, desperate to prove they've still got what it takes to hold the audience's attention. Now, let's put some real-world faces to these characters to make it even more intriguing. The lead? That's Donald Trump and the United States, back in the White House for a second term as of January 2025, calling the shots with bold moves that echo across the globe. The understudy is Xi Jinping of China, leading the world's second largest economy and pushing hard to redefine the international narrative. The swing is India under Narendra Modi, strategically maneuvering between superpowers, weighing alliances with the US or closer ties with China to advance its own rising ambitions. And the veteran, that's Vladimir Putin of Russia, somewhat isolated from the West due to ongoing conflicts, but actively seeking out new partners to bolster his position. Of course, this analogy is a bit simplistic and leaves out a ton of nuances, like historical grievances, economic intricacies, and cultural differences, but it gets really fascinating when you see how these storylines all converged just a few days ago, not on some Broadway stage, but on the grand world stage at a major summit in China. President Xi was the undisputed host and star, surrounded by an ensemble cast of influential leaders, creating moments that sent ripples through diplomatic circles. We're talking about the 25th Heads of State Council meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, held in Tianjin, China, from August 31 to September 1, 2025, where leaders from three of the planet's most populous and powerful countries, China, India, and Russia, were seen happily rubbing shoulders, signaling a potential shift in global dynamics. In total, more than 20 world leaders attended, representing a massive swath of key economies from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, including nations like Iran, Pakistan, and new members such as Belarus, all gathered to discuss security, trade, and cooperation in a forum that's increasingly positioned as a counterweight to Western-led institutions. But zoom in on those small, telling details that speak volumes about the underlying tensions and budding alliances. Picture this: India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russia's President Vladimir Putin literally holding hands as they walk, a quick but symbolic gesture that's easy to miss if you're not paying attention, then heading straight over to China's President Xi Jinping for warm handshakes, forming a tight circle where they're all smiling, laughing, and chatting like old friends. Next thing you know, they're posing for photos in limousines, exuding camaraderie. Modi even posted on X about it, saying it's always a delight to meet President Putin, whom he called a dear friend, while Putin reciprocated the sentiment. And there was Xi presiding over the whole affair, his opening remarks laced with those subtle, coded slights that China often deploys to critique the United States without naming it directly, emphasizing unity against hegemonic forces and advocating for a multipolar world order. This isn't just polite diplomacy, it's a confrontation between emerging global coalitions that stand in opposition to the liberal democratic order championed by the US, viewing America as the dominant power that needs to be resisted and balanced. To really grasp what's unfolding here in September 2025, we can best understand it as each of these countries experiencing both a push away from the US and a pull toward each other, driven by recent events and long-term strategies. Let's start with India, often seen as the jilted partner in this geopolitical love triangle, caught between two massive centers of gravity that are pulling it in different directions. For years, India has been industrializing at a rapid pace and has very much wanted and needed a strong, mutually beneficial relationship with the United States to fuel its growth and secure its position. Think back to the warmer days of 2019 during Trump's first term when Modi visited Houston, Texas for that massive Howdy Modi event, drawing over 50,000 people in one of the largest receptions for a foreign leader in U.S. history this century. It was extraordinary, unprecedented, with cheers echoing through the stadium as the two leaders paraded together, symbolizing a blossoming partnership. Then, the following year, Trump returned the favor with the Namaste Trump rally in India, pulling in even larger crowds, all namastes and applause, highlighting how both nations were leaning on each other more heavily over time. India's exports to the U.S. have shown a clear upward trend over the last 30 years, spiking dramatically in recent times, making America India's single biggest customer and underscoring the economic interdependence. The U.S., in turn, values India as a key defense partner, part of the Quad alliance alongside Japan and Australia, designed as a bulwark against Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Both countries share a view of China as a strategic threat, with India positioning itself as the global services hub while striving to catch up in manufacturing, where China has long dominated through initiatives like advances in AI, both artificial intelligence and the America-India partnership. But fast forward to 2025, and so much of that progress feels undone by a very public and economically painful humiliation. Another country deeply feeling the impacts of President Trump's ongoing trade wars is India, where a staggering 50% tariff on most U.S. imports from India took effect on August 27, 2025, among the highest imposed worldwide. This tariff is split into two equally damaging components: a 25% so-called reciprocal tariff based on trade deficits, which hurts because India's explosive growth relies on exporting its manufactured goods, and another 25% as punishment for continuing to buy Russian oil despite U.S. pressures. Trump's executive order earlier in August targeted nations fueling Russia's war machine by purchasing its energy, and India, as a major buyer, got hit hard. Exporters in India, like those in labor-intensive sectors such as textiles, footwear, and apparel, are already reporting devastating effects, with one expert noting it could undercut efforts to develop the industrial base that India has prioritized for the last 15 years. Trump himself posted on Truth Social, dismissing concerns by saying he doesn't care what India does with Russia, even if it takes their economies down together. There's a compelling argument that these punitive measures from the U.S., instead of effectively targeting Russia, have actually pushed India closer to Moscow and Beijing, as evidenced by scenes from the Tianjin summit where Modi and Putin displayed such affection. Or perhaps it's the other way around, with Russia gripping tighter amid its own pressures. Turning to Russia, the strongman under siege, Vladimir Putin's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, now dragging into its fourth year as of 2025, has added immense complexity to Russia's global standing, far from the superpower status of the Soviet era. The war has persisted despite efforts from various quarters, including Trump, who has spoken warmly of Putin at times, even receiving a birthday call. But their relationship has soared when ceasefire talks fall flat, like when missiles hit Kiev right after discussions, making words seem meaningless. Over 2 U.S. administrations, Russia has faced the most crippling international sanctions of any nation, including travel bans on elites, frozen billions in assets, trade blockades especially on oil, and even seized ships carrying Russian crude. For instance, German authorities impounded a tanker with 100,000 tons of Russian oil en route to Egypt. While Russia has leveraged its wartime economy to sustain itself, the sanctions bite hard, prompting desperate efforts to repeal them. This push from the West has driven Russia to seek new friends, but the pull from China and India is largely about oil, Russia's lifeblood as the world's second largest crude exporter after Saudi Arabia. With Europe cutting off Russian energy post-invasion, Putin needs new markets, and July 2025 data shows China and India as the top buyers by a wide margin, propping up Russia's economy. India, in particular, continues massive oil purchases, while China supplies technology for Russia's defense industry. A March 2025 deal saw India acquire advanced 1000 HP engines for its T-72 tanks from Russia, strengthening military ties. Putin's presence at the SCO summit, calling Modi a dear friend, is about projecting strength and alliances despite isolation, showing Russia as a global player with partners like these. In all this, China sees a golden opportunity and isn't shy about seizing it, as demonstrated by the military parade in Tiananmen Square just days after the summit, commemorating the 80th anniversary of World War II's end, with images of Xi alongside Putin and even North Korea's leader. China perceives the US crafted world order of the past century being undermined by Trump's policies, like reciprocal tariffs, currently at 10% on China after a suspension extension in August 2025, avoiding a spike for now. Xi believes China can fill the void left by America's retreat from multilateralism through forums like the SCO, which at the 2025 summit discussed establishing a development bank to finance projects challenging Western institutions. China's Belt and Road Initiative continues to connect infrastructure, railroads, pipelines, ports, across members, fostering political, economic, and cultural ties. By population, SCO countries represent the largest regional grouping on Earth, a substantial bloc viewing the US-led order as problematic. The Tianjin summit sent a clear message of unity, with experts noting it highlights Trump's perceived weakness in pressuring Russia or bullying India and China via tariffs without follow-through. Yet, messages differ from reality. Deep rivalries persist between China, India, and Russia, like border disputes recently eased in talks, but no fundamental conflicts derail short-term cooperation. Trump's efforts to reshape the world in his vision are inadvertently pushing his adversaries closer. Creating a tougher landscape for US prosperity, Trump himself has accused China of conspiring against the US, lamenting on Truth Social about losing India and Russia to the deepest, darkest China, urging India to align with the West. The big question now is what comes next. Will this budding alliance solidify, or will cracks emerge? As we watch this drama unfold, it's clear the global stage is more unpredictable than ever, with tariffs, summits, and handshakes rewriting the script. If this breakdown helped you make sense of it all, smash that like button, subscribe for more insights, and drop a comment on what you think happens next. Does India swing back to the US or deepen ties with the East? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.